my fellow Americans. If you think you know politics, think again. I'm Michael Cohen, and every week on When You Know, we're pulling back the curtain on power, politics, media, and the people making headlines. On my new WABC radio show, you'll hear conversations from names that you know. People like Jerry Falwell Jr., Anthony Scaramucci, Alan Dershowitz, and many, many more. Maybe, just maybe, we'll even hear from the president. No scripts, no spin, just real conversations with people who were in the room where it happened. And trust me, we've got some very big surprises coming. Look, I've spent years at the center of politics, controversy, and power. I know the players, I know the stories, and now I'm bringing you inside. When You Know, Sundays at 5 p.m. on WABC Radio, and When You Know Unleashed, wherever you get your podcasts. Because with me, you never know who's going to show up.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Katie Asher is our special guest, author of a fantastic book, The Book of Heaven. Katie's remarkable story explores the intersection of science, spirituality, consciousness, and one mother's extraordinary journey from her severely neurologically injured autistic son, Houston. The story has sparked conversations among those interested in neuroscience, faith, and the mysteries of human consciousness. Katie Asher is a writer, researcher, and a mother whose memoir, The Book of Heaven, a story of hope for the outcast, the broken, and for those who lost faith, co-authored with her severely neurologically injured autistic son, Houston, has ignited international conversations about consciousness, spiritual perception, and the reality of the soul. Katie Asher, thank you for joining us as we move deeper into our weekend on the Dr. Sky Experience. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, Katie, it's been about a year since we touched on this particular subject, and I know I say this humbly. I don't think we did complete justice to the conversation. So if you don't mind just refreshing us so people are understood, I'm liking to try to bring this together with the quantum physics of prayer, and obviously so many subjects about miracles and your story, which is so important.
Sure thing. So the background of our story is that my son was severely neurologically injured by vaccines as an infant. And he basically regressed into this silent prison. And all I could see was the chaos, this chaotic body and the destruction that would eventually be diagnosed as severe autism. And 21 years later, we found a way to teach him to communicate by pointing to letters, one letter at a time, and eventually he gained enough motor skills so that he could independently communicate by pointing to letters. Now, the very first thing that struck me as odd was when he began spelling out the Declaration of Independence.
Amazing.
And I'm like, what is going on?
Exactly. Blessings to your son and every autistic child who may not have had this evolution, as we call it, but
right.
This is amazing. So tell us more. I mean, what's so powerful about this story, and excuse me for interrupting, what's so powerful about your story is that as we try to bring the science side of this to the equation, and also with great respect to those that are very religious in the spiritual world, your story does connect, and as people will hear a direct connection to these.
It absolutely does. And I want to say the very first thing that my son ever spelled independently was an answer to the question, if you could put any slogan on a T-shirt, what would it be? And my son spelled, I'm in here.
Wow.
And I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I believed the chaotic body. I didn't understand that motor is incredibly complex, and that if your motor is injured, that you as a human being are still fully intact, But your motor, which is what all of us use to communicate with each other and to the outside world, if that's broken, you can be a fully intact human being and no one will know it because your motor's broken.
Absolutely.
So anyway, my son began of many things, spelling out the Declaration of Independence. And I, of course, because he'd never been taught anything, am confused because I'm like, where's this information coming from? How does he know this? And then it began to be beyond just being able to recite a photo, like from a photographic memory.
Exactly.
It was him understanding the constructs, the actual like philosophy, the ideas, and he's giving me these incredible perceptions of ideas that he had never been taught or been exposed to, or so I thought.
That's amazing.
And, yeah. And so that was my introduction to what on earth was going on beyond what I could visually see and observe. And then came, and this really gets into the quantum physics and prayer, which is so important to what you wanted to discuss.
You bet.
And that was when my son, I began to just ask, how on earth did you get all of this knowledge? Where is this coming from? And I asked this funny question. I said, you just have really good hearing. And my son said, spells out, I can hear thought. And I'm stunned, first of all. And my very first question was not of faith. It wasn't of trusting him or believing in him. It was, are you lying? That was the first question I asked him because I had doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and he spelled, you don't get the kind of gifts that I have if you lie. And so I began testing him over and over again. And not only did he pass every single test, but I then began to ask him questions in my mind without ever speaking. And he was answering the questions on the letterboard without any physical, like verbal, out loud words ever being spoken.
No, Katie, this is a very amazing story here. And this one, if I may take the liberty of expressing this to the audience, and you, of course, can do it better than me, but to segue to this, your son had not been able to speak for 17 years, and then one day he blurts out to you, looking you in the eye, with no blinking, I love you. That's incredible. Tell us that.
Well,
your words are better than mine. That's amazing.
Yes. Okay, so that was the story that happened earlier when he was 17 years old. And at that point, he had never had any language other than echolalia or scripting Disney words. And one night, I was laying on the couch. I was utterly exhausted. And he came and sat at my feet and was perfectly still, which is not normal. And he reached over and tugged at the blanket just like you would with perfect intention, like you would to get someone's attention. And he spoke and said, Mama. And I opened my eyes because I was shocked that I heard his voice and that he had done something so intentional. And when I opened my eyes, he was looking directly into my eyes and he said, I love you.
Wow.
And he said it with a perfectly clear voice. And whenever you have waited 17 years for your child to speak to you and say your name and say, I love you, that changes something inside you. And I was, at the time, I was actually going through yoga certification. That's what I was doing.
I see.
And I had been challenged with this idea because I was so discouraged. I had been challenged that my good had just as much chance of happening as bad. And that, to me, this was offensive because I had been just living this hellish existence of despair and desperation and hopelessness. And when they told me that good had just as much chance of happening as bad, I was extremely resistant to that idea. And then I had this miracle with my son where my son spoke and said, Mama, I love you. after 17 years of never hearing his.
Katie, that's very powerful. And I want to segue to the audience here, because I'm sure many out there with the love of their children, many have experienced autism in the family, and this is obviously something that I think you could be of great guidance. But what we're trying to do here on the Dr. Sky Experience, and you'll be the one leading the charge on this in a moment, I just wanted to set the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, have you experienced miracles in your life?
Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks are back at SIUH Community Park July 7th to the 12th for a 6-game series against the High Point Rockers. Tonight, first pitch is at 6:30. It's Thirsty Thursday with $5 Bud and Bud Light Drafts. Friday, July 10th, first pitch is at 7 p.m. May the Force be with you on Star Wars Night with post-game kids glow around the bases with special lightsaber training packs.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire, the no-show. Who set you back because they didn't show up on day one, or day two, or ever again. And now your product launch is delayed because you're talking to alien abduction podcasters to track them down. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can help make sure your next hire sticks. In fact, businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Get wings, pizza, chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Keep the soccer going and all your game day essentials flowing. Order in so you can lock in for the games. Only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
How do they work? What's consciousness? And the whole story here, we're trying to tie in what she is going to tell us. Who's she? Katie Asher, the quantum physics of prayer. And obviously this whole story of consciousness, telepathy, and faith. What a powerful story. The number's 1-800-848-9222. Get in early. And all we ask for all of our guests out there, we love you dearly, is that, and especially our callers, is that you just try to stay on topic for so many topics that we do talk about here on the Dr. Sky Experience. But let me stand here and sit here and just describe the definition of consciousness that at least some agree on. The subjective, first-person experience of being aware of oneself and your surroundings. Sounds really simple. But going on, Katie, to something even more prolific, miracles, an extraordinary event that defies natural or scientific laws, divine, supernatural intervention. And if we go back to like comic book days, all heroes have superpowers, right? So in your story, this is amazing as it evolves. So describe what you believe is this intersection between quantum physics. I mean, hardly anybody on Earth, believe me, I'm not the scholar in that at all, but certainly have good intuition in some of that area. How does this all relate so people understand this?
Sure. So it actually goes back to what I was dealing with in that when I was doing my yoga instruction and they were telling me that good had just as much chance of happening as bad, and I was resistant to this idea. And the little lesson they gave me was they asked me to think about something that was real, like a table or a chair.
Sure.
And then they said, well, now what was that before it was a table or a chair? And most people, when you ask that, they go, it was the raw material, right? It was a tree, or it was wood, or it was metal, or whatever that was.
Mm-hmm, sure.
But in reality, it was a thought. It was an idea. And the second question is the most important because it says, would the table or the chair exist if no one had ever thought of them? And they would not.
No, it's amazing.
It's not possible for a chair or a table to manifest itself. Our thoughts are energy, and they actually they abide by the laws of energy. And so that night when Houston told me that he could hear thoughts, I was taken back to whenever I'd been given that little lesson on thought. Yeah. And I realized, oh my goodness, they were right. thought is energy. And
you bet, and the laws of thermodynamics say that.
Exactly.
One of them, and primarily without going to school here, and we're in the theater of the mind, as we like to call this, obviously as many people enjoy that phraseology, but what's really interesting from my part is if you look at one of the basic laws, energy is neither created nor destroyed, just moving through to different levels. But Katie, if you don't mind, let's go to the callers, because as always, with great guests like yourself, we're lighting up the phone lines here. And I'm sorry, we only have a limited time with you. We'll do this in the future, I'm sure. Let's go to line number 1, Gregory in Michigan. He's on with Katie Asher, the author of the Book of Heaven. Good morning to you. How are you, sir?
Very good, Mr. Positive Boom Shakalaka. Now, I'm going to play the little bit of devil's advocate here. When you talk about miracles, Dr. Sky, and your distinguished guest, you're talking about a break in reality. If God, and it's divine, and it's a super being, if you will, God, if he is by definition all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-seeing, and he knows everything, and he knows the continuum,
yes,
a miracle is a break in reality. That means he made a mistake. In essence, that's what a miracle is, because if he's divine and he knows what Dr. Sky is going to do for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, every single moment of every single day, doesn't it seem that if there's a miracle, that means that he is not omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing? I'm sorry to be controversial, but that's what Mr.
That's
Positive is all about. I've read the stories, the book.
We welcome conversation. But, Greg, the interest of time, I think you've explained, and believe me, I have not the answer. So let's go to Katie, who's give us her iteration of what you just said. And I appreciate Greg. And, Katie, please continue on what Gregory was talking about.
So there are natural laws, which are basically our physical laws. And we can argue about what the definition of a miracle is, but it typically is something outside of what we can manifest with our own physical work, with our own natural laws. And it basically requires us using the laws that are beyond the natural laws that exist in the immaterial realm. And that would include energy, which does go into both the immaterial and the material. So it supersedes both realms.
Sure.
As far as the omniscience and omnipotence of God, he is so wonderful that he allows our prayers to be answered. And it is through, and he even says, all things are possible for the one who believes. So he gives us the measure to ask and to believe and to use the God-given gifts that we have with our immaterial being, which is our spirit, to manifest the very things that seem impossible in the natural world, which are limited to the physical laws.
No, you say it so well. I wish we had 500 hours to do this kind of a show, because one of the things I want to jump rather quickly here, because we have an amazing full board of callers here, and I'm not surprised, Katie, with the subject. If you're just joining us, Katie Asher, author of a phenomenal book, ladies and gentlemen, The Book of Heaven, a very detailed, discussion, in her opinion, living it, of course, with her son that she loves dearly, autistic child. But then again, I don't even know if that's a proper word to use, and how much more respectful can I be? An amazing young child, an amazing adult who obviously is opening up and maybe giving us more answers to what's out there beyond. Also, some of the things that you're working on, it also goes to connect to people that are obviously very high up in the neuroscience area, like a Dr. Jeff Tarrant. I mean, just talk about him for a moment before we go to this break. I want to try to get everybody on. The connection is strong between what you were saying and science.
Yes, Dr. Jeff Tarrant is amazing, and he has actually done a bunch of EEGs on Houston, as well as some other non-speakers, showing what's actually going on in their brain when they are being able to be proven to be using telepathy. So he discusses that. Then we have Dr. Marjorie Willicott, who has been examining the footage of all of these different tests, and as well as collecting data from multiple non-speakers who are testifying of the metaphysical. And then Dr. Diane Powell, who, of course, was in the beginning stages of this, the preliminary researcher who was even believing that telepathy Houston doesn't call it telepathy. I just want y'all to know. He calls it hearing thoughts. He calls it seeing the unseen. And so let me explain really quickly why this is possible. And we are a spirit. That's what we all are. We have a physical vessel. When at conception, there is an inorganic, that means not made of living matter or sourced of living matter, spark. It's literally an explosion, a light that goes off at conception, and it's inorganic, and which actually matches what Scripture says, that He is the light, and that His light is in man, and that's what happens at conception. And we're made in His image, and it is spirit. And the spirit itself, whenever a human being dies, their body stays and decays, but the spirit itself, which gave the body life, moves on. Now, we know from the laws of thermodynamics that this energy cannot be lost. It's neither created nor destroyed. It's transferred. So it transfers from the immaterial to the physical, and then once it left the physical, where does it go? It goes to the spiritual. It is in the immaterial realm. All matter comes from the immaterial. And that's what's hard for us to understand. And it's why these materialistic logic and reasoning and constructs don't work and fail to explain our reality, is because they are limited to, and they don't take into consideration the source of all matter, which is immaterial.
You say it so well. We're almost up at that break, but Katie, not to go into the detail, and I want to tell people when they do get a copy of your book, The Book of Heaven, you go into a rather lengthy process of talking about your personal life struggles, which I don't feel is fair for me to go on and talk about, but I think it's amazing how you have recovered and you've moved on to a path where you love your son, and obviously that connection, a mother and a son, wow, that's super powerful. That defies any law of gravity, but it's so important here. Again, 1-800-848-9222, a very interesting subject, Katie, where we're talking about, because science doesn't know everything, obviously. You know, some people say the more we know of science, the less we really know of the world. And we had a gentleman on here a few months ago, or I think it was a month ago, Dr. Michael Gillen. He was the science correspondent for, Good Morning America for so many years, a good friend of mine. And he's talked about in his world, he was an atheist. And he came full circle when he was educated by Carl Sagan. He had his PhDs in math, physics, and astronomy. That he believes, of course, in the spiritual side of this, that there is really a connection. And that connection, of course, is his faith and many of the people that are out there, that as we learn about the universe, obviously there must be some sort of power out there that created this big, vast shebang, as many people call it, a most amazing story. But Katie, when we come back from the break, as I mentioned, I'm glad for it and happy for this. A full board of callers that I'd like to get the conversations going. And of course, give us your website so people can know that before the hour runs out. Just tell us, and then we got to go to the break.
It's Asher.house.
Asher.house. More with Katie Asher, an amazing guest, ladies and gentlemen. She has an experience that is amazing. That's why we wanted to put her on the air here in front of the entire world. The Book of Heaven. We'll be right back after these announcements here on the Dr. Sky Experience. As we know from the world of quantum physics, time is run here, the hour of time, and that makes us go to this particular break. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
You're listening to the Dr. Sky Report. Vital information from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather. Take a journey to the stars and beyond with Dr. Sky. Always remember to keep your eyes to the skies.
The whole world is a series of miracles, but we're so used to them, we call them ordinary things. A quote from Hans Christian Andersen. 33 minutes after the hour, Katie Asher is our special guest, and we continue with you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to line number 2. We have Reverend Dr. D in California. You are on with Katie Asher. Good evening to you, sir. How are you?
Well, good evening, Dr. Sky. Thank you for your navigation. I would be lost without you. Katie, I'm fascinated. I host a program on here on the West Coast called Tell Me Your Story, and it just so happens that just a little over a week ago, one of the subjects was mysticism and miracles. And one of the conclusions I have come to is that the separation between, the perceived separation between science and, as we like to call it, religion or spirituality, doesn't really exist other than in the mind of man. And that when you talk about miracles, and I'm all in favor of what you're talking about, I absolutely love the conversation, we are talking about the fact that because we don't understand what's happening, we call it a miracle. I find it fascinating, for example, that the Catholic Church, following the death of a pope, will wait X number of, years, and then they must verify 3 miracles that are allegedly attributed to that pope, i.e. Pope John Paul II, let's just say. Okay. And if they are able to do so, guess what? He becomes a saint, or at least the church makes him a saint. So I find it fascinating, and I'll just wrap this up by saying that my mother asked me this question some years ago. She says, Richard, have you ever had any supernatural experiences? You could call them miracles or what have you.
Exactly.
At the time, I said that, well, if I did, they just appeared normal to me, which is how I view the miracles of Yeshua. He didn't think there was any big deal there because that's who he was. That's the way he was.
No, interesting.
And that's why when I look at people who are on the spectrum, such as your son, whether it's autism, Down syndrome, et cetera, those are the people who are the normal ones because they're in the now. They're here. They're not in the past or future. They're living right here. And the greatest miracle of all that I think Yeshua tried to teach us is that we are here to transform our lives.
Well, thank you, Dr. D. We appreciate it. I'm in the interest of time. Katie, he said a lot and a very good of a lot. So please continue, Katie. I thought that's fascinating to hear from him.
I think he had some wonderful points. And what's so interesting about, and I agree that Christ absolutely lived out the impossible in the natural world and showed us that it is possible. And one of the things I think was so interesting is whenever the woman with the issue of blood touched the hem of his garment, in the King James Version, he talks about how, who touched me, for I felt virtue flow out of me. He felt, and what we have to understand is he is the holiness of God incarnate. And so whenever virtue comes out of him, it literally can only produce holiness and cleanliness and wholeness. That's what he is. And so all of that we think is impossible is actually in him, in the fullness of him. And the way we receive all of it is through faith. And faith is thought, belief. Houston says that belief is becoming. He said that abundance comes from faith and the harvest comes from work. But we try to do everything just with work. And then we get frustrated because we don't understand the part of creation, which is the thought, the mind. And we skip that part and we think it can all just come from work, and it can't. We have to actually believe, and that is taking the will of man and instituting the mind of man to produce the work of man.
You say it so well. We'll continue with the callers, the full board of callers here, which we do appreciate on the Dr. Sky Experience. Line number 3 is Dave in Pennsylvania. You've been patient. Good morning. You're on with Katie Asher. How are you doing?
It's Katie, your guest name, right? Not Haiti or anything.
Katie.
Katie.
K-A-T-I-E.
I think she's a very good mother to her son. Beautiful. Really took the time to study outside of his interest for his benefit. And the young man has a future if he so chooses. You know how kids are. I don't know how old he is now. You said something about 17. If he chooses to make decent paths, he will have a decent path. A lot of it will have to do with Katie's upbringing.
Absolutely.
I want to bring up one thing about the spiritual world. A lot of people do apparently. Now, this ties back. I told the producer of this show, he didn't say his name, that I did write a short story, Dr. Sky. I called you last night, and this is all related. My short story was about tropical rainforest deforestation and the restoring of the deforested areas of the tropical rainforest, the restoring of them. Brazil's government used to have a program, I don't know if they still do, called EcoLoom. I don't know how far it spreads throughout the tropical countries where the tropical rainforests are, but they had an EcoLoom, which was an agricultural type of program, and that's where I'm getting at the spiritual thing. You know, a lot of people get their spiritual release aided by things that grow and they smoke and they do take in pill form medical supplies and stuff like that. They get their spiritual beliefs that way.
Do you hear that? Sounds like breakfast is ready. Because Quaker's coming in hot with morning nutrition. 100% whole grain oats and a good source of fiber to fuel the rhythm of your morning and kickstart your day. And that sounds absolutely delicious. Fuel to start whatever's next. Quaker, official sponsor of FIFA World Cup 26.
This episode is brought to you by Perfect Bistro Cat Food. Hey guys, today I'm interviewing my cat about his Perfect Bistro food. Percy, you seem to be a big Perfect Bistro fan. Care to comment? Totally. What do you like about it? You love the high-quality ingredients? And the delicious flavors, of course. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Listen to Percy, guys. Visit perfectbistro.com to try it for your cat.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, 0 tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
So Dave, I think you made your point. I don't want to cut you, but I guess I have to. Katie, if you would like to respond, I'm trying to get everybody on here in the limited amount of time and space that we do have. But Dave, appreciate your commentary, and I don't know if you do want to comment on what he had said. I think they made a couple of good spiritual points.
Well, definitely the Lord is the creator of all creation, and people absolutely do have spiritual experiences in nature, and nature can be healing. The thing about the spiritual realm that people need to understand is that it includes both truth and deception, just like our material world does. And so in every aspect, we have to operate with discernment. And that doesn't mean just taking anything and using anything. It means operating with discernment and being able to understand that which is good and that which is not good. And so absolutely, we need to be discerning.
Line 4, we go to Gus in the Bronx. You're on with Katie Asher. Good morning to you. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, sir. My whole life, I see premonitions, and a lot of times they scare me.
Wow.
One of the first, I tell you one of the first ones, later on in my life, 2 days before the towers got hit, I saw the towers on fire.
Oh, my God.
And I woke up the next day, and I said, what kind of dream was that? It doesn't make sense.
Not at all. Right?
Those towers cannot catch on fire. They're made out of steel. How can he? And then 2 days later, boom.
And you had a premonition. That's amazing. A premonition.
Yes,
wow.
yes. And when I exercised, when I was young, I used to exercise with a very good guy that was in charge of the Secret Service after Reagan got shot.
I see.
But when the first premonition that happened to me, when I was 5 years old, I had tuberculosis.
I'm
they
sorry.
had put me in the hospital. My right lung was collapsed. And the doctors are coming around and they're saying the condition and this is how it is. I was in a sanitarium. I was going to die. And I woke up that night. I opened up 2 big doors. I remember. I went in the balcony. They had me in Greece in a place called Pedeli. That when they put you're on your way out. And I said, God, I don't want to die. Please, I don't want to die. What are they saying? And the doctors don't know what happened. I got cured.
That's
but
amazing.
If you do only good in life and you don't have evil thoughts and you try to, something protects you.
Right, thoughts become actions. You better believe it. And I hate to cut you short. I mean, it's amazing. I keep apologizing, but I'm running the clock here, and I do appreciate it. Katie, we got about 2 minutes before the next break, but again, Gus, an amazing premonition you're sharing with us. How do these things happen? Katie, give us some insight, from the spiritual side.
All time is happening at the same time. Our linear concept of time is misunderstood. All time is happening at the same time. Think of it like a record player where all of it exists, and where you put the needle is where the focus is. But for those who are more spiritually attuned, Houston calls it opening windows in time, so they can actually see something that's happening. And the miracle is that our thoughts and our beliefs can actually have an impact on things in another place in space and time. And there's actually scientific evidence, and they've done experiments where they can actually change the shape and the form of how sand operates according, essentially how it collects and becomes organizes itself.
We're up against the break, Katie. Believe me, I apologize to everybody on both sides. If we had 62 hours, no, don't be sorry. What I think is one of the conclusions here is that Einstein talked about the space-time continuum, and the general arrow of time, not that this is absolute, moves in the direction of forward, but let's look at the possibility of jumping over that line. And again, this relationship that we're having with you today and this morning, talking about the connection between spirituality, what you and your son have experienced, linking together the quantum world and keeping our minds open about consciousness and miracles. We'll be right back. We'll do our very best to get everybody who's called on the air here on the Dr. Sky Experience with me, Steve Gates, as we move toward those days we call the dog days of summer. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
This is Rizwan Vir, author of The Simulation Hypothesis. An MIT computer scientist shows why AI, quantum physics, and Eastern mystics agree we are in a video game. And you're listening to The Dr. Sky Show.
46 minutes after the hour, we continue with an overload of callers, and we consider them friends of the Dr. Sky and Dr. Sky Experience. Katie Asher is our guest. Her website, in case you'd like to check it out, asher.house. Let's go to line number 5 and say good morning to Frank in the Bronx. You've been patient. What's your concerns, questions, or observations?
Hey, Dr. Sky, I'm Asher. Okay, a couple of comments, okay? First of all, there has to be a higher power. I believe in God. There has to be a higher power to create science. And the second thing is, it's theoretically possible to part the Red Sea. That's my comment.
Well, that would be difficult. Right? Again, that's something you have to have extreme faith, right? How would someone part the Red Sea? Well, God could do it. But, Katie, that's amazing because it goes into deep spiritual belief in things that we've heard about, in the Old and New Testament, and in many other cultures around the world. Simply what? Miracles that we do not understand. Frank, you brought up something interesting.
So what people don't understand, and I shouldn't say they don't understand. There's certainly some people who do understand, but most people just aren't really aware of when they're thinking about these concepts, is that there are two types of energy. There is kinetic energy, which is energy that's already in motion, and there's potential energy. And that is energy that has the potential to be released, but it has not yet been released. And in potential energy, there are two types of potential energy, and one is exothermic and one is endothermic.
Exactly.
And so these are, and our thoughts, which are also energy, have an impact on what type of potential energy is released. The other aspect of that is our emotions, which our emotions are also energy. And our emotions have an impact on our thoughts and on how we essentially decide what we're going to believe, which of course then releases either exothermic or endothermic energy. And so these are like all the things that have to be in alignment for miracles to happen. Our thoughts and our emotions have to be in alignment, and we can literally create reality with our thoughts and our emotions. And the key is to bring these into alignment with what Christ has actually accomplished for us, which is guaranteed. It's done. The work is already accomplished, and we receive it all through faith.
Amazing.
And so that's so critical to understand, and that's all been accomplished in the atonement.
Well, in the short amount of time that we've had here, I think we've done some justice to the subject, but the Book of Heaven, ladies and gentlemen, getting it wherever good books are sold, you know where that is. Subtitled, Story of Hope for the Outcast, the Broken, and Those Who Lost Faith. A great dynamic, a rather lengthy book, if I might add, filled with great information. Let's continue with the callers. It's unbelievable. I feel like I'm at a carnival right now and trying to make sure that everybody at least can get to see what's happening at the center stage in the Theater of the Mind. Let's go to line number one. We welcome Michael in New Jersey. Michael, you're on with Katie Asher. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm going to tell you, I was converted directly by taking communion. When I was 16, I was born Jewish.
Yes.
I was told I should be a rabbi, but I felt there was something missing. Mm-hmm. Many years later, I paid my respect to somebody who was a coworker, and I knew nothing about Christianity or anything. So when everyone stood up and got online, I got online too. I thought they were eating cookies. It was. I took communion for 8 years.
Well, that's a very special cookie, my
by
friend.
the Holy Spirit directly.
Right. They don't make communion into Oreo cookies by any means. Right?
I'm telling you.
No, I love that analogy. Isn't that a great, Katie?
Go ahead. Teacher for 13 years, and I'm leaving out so much detail, but it was all of a miracle, everything.
Amazing.
And I've had so many miracles happen personally.
Well, you know what's so interesting that you bring up the Eucharist, because what people need to understand is that He is the Word, right? And so that means that He is literally the Word, and He is God, and He is the Word, which really gets back to that whole idea of consciousness. He is the source of everything, and we're made in His image. And then He became the seed, and the seed became the manna, the bread, and then the bread was broken for us. And so whenever it says that I am the bread of life, that I gave my body for you, and my body you will take and eat, and my blood you will drink. He is the vine, He is the bread, He is the seed, He is the Word. These are literally showing us in real time how the immaterial is transferred into the material. And whenever we partake it, we are receiving that translation from spirit to matter, and then into our spirit.
Yes, Katie, and I just want to do a programming note here. In hour number 2, ladies and gentlemen, another outstanding guest, a friend of ours, Bill Yenny, author, historian, and book producer on some of the most amazing topics in history, aviation history, and such. We'll be speaking with him, of course, about something going on in the nation right now. One of the most amazing locomotives, going back to American exceptionalism, has been traveling across the country. It's called the Big Boy. one of the most amazing, iconic steam locomotives. We talk about that with our special guest, and also about the latest on Air Force One. We do know about the Air Force One that's now the replacement airplane until the others are finished. What happened with President Trump when he changed planes. This is an interesting story, but unfortunately we'll not take calls on this particular hour subjects in hour number 2, in due respect to our guest. We round up this hour by going to line number 2. Joe, you've been patient in New Jersey. Good morning to you. Thanks for your patience.
Yes, a miracle is a supernatural event where the impossible becomes possible. In December 24th, 1993, the Jersey Journal of New Jersey wrote an article on me, and the article was Where Angels Tread.
Oh.
I saw a vision of the Holy Family.
Amazing.
So miracles are true. They come from God.
Amazing, sir. Amazing testimony that you've given us here. Katie, this is interesting, and I want to go back to the concept. Many of my science friends that I've studied with over the years, many of them were vowed atheists, and they have a right to their opinion there. But many of those people, as I mentioned before, Dr. Michael Gillen, who was the chief science correspondent for Good Morning America, this is going back many, many years ago. Still, we had him on, a very interesting man. That conversion, because he's even said simply, I was an atheist, but now I believe there's much more to this whole universe. And look what he knows. 3 PhDs, astronomy, physics, mathematics, powerful stuff, but you don't have to have those degrees to be a believer. Continue, because we like to give every guest an opportunity to wrap up. Maybe that's not the right word, to give us you're on center stage right now in the Theater of the Mind. You got the floor.
There is just so much to discuss when you think about the immaterial becoming material and the Spirit of God coming to earth to impart himself and to save mankind. And there's really no way that I can do that subject justice. But what I can tell you is that these non-speakers prove the existence and the reality of the immaterial. They prove the reality of thought, that thought is energy, that it can transfer. They prove the existence of premonitions. They prove the existence of energy in complex forms that we have failed to consider. And the reason our materialistic views are so skewed and so like they don't work. The whole one of your callers said something about science. You know, it simply it's greater than what we perceive, and that we don't understand it the way it truly is.
You're
and
right.
I agree with it, and that's because we have taken science, which is God's creation, and we've tried to put it into a framework of materialism, which uses man's reason and understanding and the limits of man's senses as the ultimate harbinger of truth. And that's not possible because man's senses are only capable of perceiving 4% of the actual energy. And that's
exactly. You say it right. Mm-hmm. The smallest amount of what we see in the universe, we only see 4% of the entire universe tying this in. But let me try something here unusual. Line number 5, Buzz is calling us from the great state of Hawaii. So we thought we'd jump right into it. Buzz, you've got a minute or two to express your thoughts way out there in the Pacific. Hope everything's well. How are you?
Yes, sir, Dr. Sky. Thank you for taking my call. This will be the Reader's Digest version. I was staying at the Thunderbird Motel in Bloomington, Minnesota. This had been back about 1992, waiting to take a flight the next morning from Minneapolis, then to Memphis, and then on to Greenville, Mississippi. Well, that night, I woke up, sat up in bed in the middle.
On July 16th, The Hawk lands on Netflix. From the mind of Will Ferrell.
Oh, mama, I'm back!
Comes a new original series.
Get ready. That's it. Did I stutter?
When an iconic pro golfer
Lonnie Hockey
takes one last swing at greatness.
You were a big shot golfer.
I still am a big shot golfer.
No one,
Dad, I'm the Hawk now,
will stand in his way.
That's how it's done.
The Hawk, only on Netflix, July 16th.
This episode is brought to you by Workday. Guessing is for game shows, not your business, especially when your margin for error is 0. Workday is the enterprise AI platform for HR, finance, and IT, with a deep understanding of your organization's context and guardrails. So every AI action is permission aware, giving you accuracy 24/7 and the ability to not just get work done, but get it done right. It's a new Workday.
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
If you want all of your data in one place, you need the Intuit ERP. I'm Damon John, and I run my growing business on Intuit Enterprise Suite. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Middle of the night, and I could hear my wife saying, "Buzz, Buzz." Now, she's down in Greenville, Mississippi. I'm up in Bloomington, Minnesota. So she picked me up at the Greenville airport the next morning, and she said, "You'll never know what happened last night. A tornado hit our house."
Oh. Unbelievable.
So how do you explain that?
I don't know, Buzz, but we're short on time, and I keep apologizing because we're run by the clock, the quantum thing of space-time. Katie, a quick response from you, and Buzz, thank you out there in the island paradise of Hawaii. At least I hope it is. Continue, please, Katie.
We're all connected. And whenever someone has a relationship with someone, a deep relationship with someone, it is absolutely possible for them to be able, for you to hear them and hear their thoughts. And this is why we've had so many stories of people knowing when, a relative something was happening with a relative, or you think of somebody and the phone rings and it's that person. And it's because we're all connected, and thought is energy, and thought transfers. It is able to go through time and space in ways that defy our materialistic limits.
Amazing.
And that's what you experienced, was a spiritual experience.
Totally amazing. Katie Asher, your book, The Book of Heaven. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Subtitled The Story of Hope for the Outcast, the Broken, and Those Who've Lost Faith. God bless you and your son, and hope to do this again. I'll be right back.
The right window treatments change everything: your sleep, your privacy, the way every room looks and feels. At Blinds.com, we've spent 30 years making it surprisingly simple to get exactly what your home needs. We've covered over 25 million windows and have 50,000 five-star reviews to prove we deliver. Whether you DIY it or want a pro to handle everything from measure to install, we have you covered. Real design professionals, free samples, zero pressure. Right now, get up to 45% off site-wide, plus get a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
Shipping, billing, admin, payroll, marketing. You're managing all the things, so why waste time sending important documents the old-fashioned way? Mail and ship when you want, how you want with Stamps.com. Print postage on demand 24/7 and schedule pickups from your office or home. Save up to 90% with automated rate shopping. That's why over 1 million small businesses trust Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com and use code PODCAST to try Stamps.com risk-free for 60 days.